Welcome to Rock Paper Shotgun. Now, I've got some bad news to break to you. It's the end of the world as we know it, and it's all the fault of Lara Croft. She's trying to round out the trilogy of her rebooted adventures with the darkest, toughest one yet, which means the stakes are now set at a global level. Remember when this was all just about kicking the face off a tiger to get some jewels? Those were the days. But despite all the doom and gloom, after playing the opening 4 hours of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I came away with a very different impression. In the hands of Eidos Montreal, they of Deus Ex fame, this actually feels more like classic Tomb Raider than the series has for some years. It's got tougher platforming, a more exotic setting, and some really stunning mud physics. All this and more awaits you as we tour the best features in the game so far. Of course, before we elegantly swan dive into the action, 2 bits of business. The game was captured on Xbox One X, set to high resolution mode over high frame rate. It will obviously look snazzier on PC, and in order not to miss our future PC coverage of the game, why not subscribe to the channel before we proceed? I promise the sub button isn't an ancient booby trap. Test it and see. Now, let's get on with it.
Yes, that's it.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about Lara finally becoming the Tomb Raider she was meant to be, but what does this actually mean? Well, a key part of being the Tomb Raider, it seems, is messing up the local wildlife. Lara Croft has killed about 5 zoos worth of animals over 22 years, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider continues the ancient art of putting bits of metal through lovely fluffy creatures. Let's break it down. In my time with the game, I killed an Oro Pendola, which is about 4 times smaller than the arrow I shot it with. I got a boar, which is pretty standard. I squished some spiders. You can use their venom to make trap arrows. I stabbed this eel thing in the head, and I actually did that about 3 times in the course of my demo. It's either one very persistent eel or 3 identical triplets. I met some piranhas, but I was scared of those, so I hid in some weeds. Hopefully I'll get an unlockable fishing rod later in the game to take my revenge. Now, I'm not proud of the 2 howler monkeys I shot. The way this one fell off a branch made me feel really sad. I felt less sad about the 2 jaguars I fought, however, mainly because I'm quite bad at aiming and almost died both times. These were almost like mini boss fights, a bit like the bear near the start of Rise of the Tomb Raider, except this one gets a knife in the ear. If you pause it just here, that's exactly the face I pull when I use a cotton bud to clean my ears. Great animation work. Fighting mad beasts in the forest feels like very old-fashioned Tomb Raider to me, and I enjoyed that. Though, did she have to go out of her way to shoot down the Oro Pendola nest? I mean, that just feels needlessly petty to me. Even though I spent much of my time emptying the world of natural life, again, apologies to David Attenborough if he's watching, I was struck by how alive the world is. For all of the studio's talk about this being the darkest, meanest entry in the new Tomb Raider trilogy, the opening hours are actually some of the lightest in the entire series. Okay, you have to gloss over a whole city dying in an apocalyptic flood, but once you reach the jungle itself, the game is flooded with natural life. All that lush greenery and the sound of bird calls, it feels like an adventurer's paradise in a way the rebooted games never really have. I find myself standing on tall cliffs and just slowly drinking in the atmosphere. It makes such a change from the recent games. Tomb Raider took us to Death Island, and Rise was set in a frozen Siberian hell. This quest starts with Lara having fun climbing trees. Okay, it doesn't take her long until she's being stalked by some angry jaguars, but your reward for murdering them is access to this lovely lagoon. It helps that the opening hours of the game are relatively light on combat, compared to the previous games, so that you feel better placed to enjoy the world you're in.
Oh, it's over. You're safe.
Of course, when you're not gawking at the world, you're hiding in it, getting ready to shout boo and stick a knife in someone's ear. I was intrigued to see what kind of stealth makeover Eidos Montreal would give Lara, considering their pedigree with shadowy killers in Deus Ex and Thief. In some ways, this is clearly the work of the same studio. I mean, look at the move Serpent's Fury, where Lara chains 2 takedowns into one. That's lifted entirely from Adam Jensen's playbook, minus the elbow chisels. Good news, it was a fun, powerful play in Deus Ex, and it's just as fun here. But otherwise, this is a faster moving stealth system, almost cartoony in its simplicity, but very satisfying in its zip. There's heaps of cover from the obligatory bushes to walls of mud and leaves that Lara vanishes into, just her little face peeking out as if she was cosplaying as a hedge. You can then dart out, smack the guards about, and slip back into the wall. This idea of popping in and out also plays into the large bodies of water that conveniently cover the areas. Time your movements right and you can yank people off piers and handily dispose of them under the water. No bodies, no curious guards. This fast and furious sneaking is really aided by an awareness system that returns from Rise of the Tomb Raider. Trigger survival instinct view and it tells you straight up when an enemy is safe to kill without others noticing. If they're red, it'll cause you trouble, and if they're yellow, you can force feed them an arrow from 50 feet away. Mixed with the new takedown skills, it adds up to a really snappy way to take stealth at speed. It's probably not going to tick your boxes if you enjoy prowling around vision cones and slowly opening up angles of attack, but as someone who finds the cover-based shooting a little scrappy and hectic, I like having the option to dart through these areas undetected. In fact, I think there was only one fight in 3 hours that forced me to engage in open combat, which is something you couldn't say of Rise. I also like this thing where you hang someone from a rope, and it basically turns Lara into Batman, albeit a version of Batman who would have probably killed all the bats when he found that cave. Everyone knows that holidays are more fun with mates, unless it was that time I took Dragon Quest IX down to Devon and ruined several friendships with the looping battle music. Thankfully, there's no time for massive JRPGs where Lara has gone, so she can get in some quality time with returning chum Jonah. Having somehow survived 2 horrible holidays with Lara already, he's back for more, clearly a glutton for punishment, and he gets to do a bit more in this game, joining Croft for some crumbling cliff path adventures, not the smartest place to bring in absolutely massive bloke, and getting him to help with some puzzles. I say help, he basically acts as a glorified crate for keeping objects in place, but a crate that occasionally offers tips, so that's okay with me. It's a very Uncharted edition, especially when the 2 of you start conking out guards in tandem. It's hardly a revolutionary change in that regard, but it is reassuring to see Lara socialising and actually having a good time in between all the bits where she's sticking bottles into people's heads.
No here, eh?
After the quality time with Jonah, I got to explore the revamped hub areas. Building on the mountain village you found in Rise of the Tomb Raider, Lara now has full towns to explore. They're full of NPCs with funny little sound bites, and other NPCs trapped in endless animation loops, which are endearing until you remember that these boys will be splashing each other until the end of time. Perhaps the apocalypse Lara's triggered would actually be a sweet release for them. I'm more interested in the way this hub serves up adventuring possibilities. Listening to lines of dialogue hints at objects hidden in the area, which would be quite natural storytelling if the map didn't then add a massive "find gold here" marker. It's only a small map, and you can trust us to find its secrets. There's also a merchant who sells new bits of kit. It's a more fleshed out version of the supply shack in Rise of the Tomb Raider. While all of his crafting ingredients can be found out in the wild, he does sell weapons and add-ons that won't be found anywhere else. But the most interesting stuff is the side missions, which handily leads me on to my next point.
And? Isn't that what they're paid for?
Explore the village and you'll meet this unfortunate chap getting kicked down the stairs. He's being abused by a gang of pillagers who are making life tough for the villagers. This in turn leads Lara off down a side avenue to some ruins, where you have to stop the pillaging with some killaging. Considering the Deus Ex connection through Eidos Montreal, I had hoped for something slightly spicier from these side tasks. But while they're not as meaty as those futuristic distractions, they are a step up from Rise of the Tomb Raider's "go and kill me 5 wolves please" type tasks. The self-contained area reminds me of the Predator rooms in the Batman Arkham games. It's a penned-in space with a gang of thugs to slowly pick off. It's a chance to play with that satisfyingly predictable enemy AI, luring a procession of curious guards to their doom, and chucking about improvised explosives. Perhaps we're meant to treat this side mission like the combat version of the game's challenge tombs, where those are a big puzzle set aside from the main path. This is more of a scripted enemy encounter away from the main battles that dot the game. Of course, it has that little bit of story setup and resolution to give it a bit more shape. When I think of Tomb Raider, I think of technological advancements. Even back in 1996, when Lara looked like she was made from origami, she was making a bid for realism that Mario and friends weren't. Shadow of the Tomb Raider ups the visual stakes in many ways, but I want to focus on the mud. Look at this damn mud. It's sublime. Just listen to the sound of it. I love the mud so much that even the threat of nearby violence can't lure me out of it.
That doesn't sound good.
The way she wades through that mush, leaving big slurping trails in the surface, oh, it's lovely. Occasionally she stumbles and leaves an even bigger imprint. It looks like thick chocolate pudding mix, but it probably doesn't taste as good. I honestly could make an entire video just about that mud, and some people would probably enjoy that. The internet is home to all sorts. Okay, maybe it's getting a bit creepy now, so I guess I better say something smart about the mud. Did you know that the mud has a tactical use in the game? Lara can coat herself in the stuff in order to increase her camouflage during stealth sections, but really I just like walking in it. Oh, and don't worry if you're a total clean freak, I spotted loads of kitchen roll in the local shop. If you are anything like me, you are sick of automatic platforming in 3D adventure games. You know, the way heroes automatically reach for the next grip, and your path up steep cliffs is marked out with dollops of paint on each handhold. I know it's about accessibility, but it's totally at odds with the game pretending to be a hostile environment. Also, what lunatic is painting all these platforms? Is it explained in the lore? Lara is guilty of this trend in her first 2 rebooted games, but Shadow of the Tomb Raider does offer something of an apology. When setting the difficulty at the beginning of the game, you choose the individual challenge level of combat, exploration and puzzles. I particularly like the jaguar at the side, almost daring you to punch it up a bit. Increasing the exploration difficulty removes the markers from the platforms, bringing the game much more in line with Tomb Raider Underworld or Anniversary in the way it feels, and I love it. With the paint gone, you really have to look hard at the world around you, picking out natural platforms hiding behind foliage, and working out where to make your next move. I find that you connect more with the wider art design this way. There's still plenty of camera techniques and lighting tricks to lead the eye to the right places, but you're encouraged to appreciate the smaller details. Yes, it does mean you'll sometimes make stupid moves and jump straight onto spikes, but this is meant to be dangerous. I want more danger. When you reach an area like this spider mural, it's so much neater having the stonework untarnished with streaks of paint. It looks more like an untouched historical find, one that I'm going to trash with my dirty boots. Annoyingly, the best platform in the first few hours is in the challenge tombs, which I'm not actually allowed to show you in this video, so you'll just have to take my word for it that there's some really knotty designs for you to unpick and navigate. Stepping into these contraptions and looking up at the churning cogs and whirring parts, without the obvious route painted on, gives you that spark of excitement I've not felt for years from Tomb Raider. It's that feeling of how the hell am I going to make sense of this? So do yourself a favour and whack that exploration difficulty up. It's what the jaguar would want. So, you've made it to the end of the video. Well done you. I was worried that I might have lost you at that weird bit about the mud. Thanks for watching to the end. If you have any questions about Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I will try and answer them in the comments below. I played loads that we couldn't show in the video, but I'm pretty sure I can talk about them without a laser sight appearing on my forehead. If you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe to the channel. We cover anything that's on PC, basically. You can check out our recent Stardew Valley multiplayer session, or see all the gory new features in the Resident Evil 2 remake by clicking on the on-screen links. Thanks for watching, and we'll hopefully see you soon. Bye for now.